Trust their history. Their history will tell you how they're going to perform for you. You don't want to be the catalyst that someone changes their life. People can change their life. I do believe there's turnarounds in people's lives. But as an employer, do you really want to take the risk? It's like getting a winning lottery ticket. Most people never can change because it takes so much effort. They've got to change their environment. They've got to change the people to hang out with. They've got to change habits that they've built over years when you start to turn someone's life around. So don't take that extra risk as an entrepreneur. You take enough risk already.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
Blue Collar Millionaires, welcome back to the Blue Collar Millionaire podcast. Me and Kevin are here, and we're going to talk about something that most entrepreneurs just, quite frankly, screw up, and that is hiring. Over the last 3 decades, that between me and actually it'd probably be 5 decades if you added our time in business together, Kevin, if you added that up. Over the last 5 decades, what we have learned about hiring. We're going to talk about kind of a framework and filter method that you need, the questions that you're going to discuss inside of your interview, and then as well, just the clarity that you need to have before you ever even think about putting an interview ad out there for an applicant. So, Kevin, some of the filters, I know for me, when I'm talking to an applicant, one of the first things I have learned from my past experience is to trust my gut. If I don't feel good about this applicant, then my customer's not going to feel good about them. And my gut, I don't know how to explain it, but typically your gut is right. It's very rare where I've had a situation and I said my gut was wrong, but many times have I felt like someone was not the right person, went ahead and hired, and then thought I should have trusted my gut.
Absolutely. It's, hiring people and meeting people and bringing them onto your team is a lot like dating. Everybody's going to put their best foot forward in the beginning. Everybody's had some guy who interviewed very well. He came out, he worked really hard for a week. Second week, he went down. Third week, he saw all kinds of problems. So that's super frustrating. And what does it do? It makes you not want to do it again because you start not trusting your gut. Take your time with them and don't just ask simple questions. Ask people stuff, and it's almost to trip them up or to learn about them. I want to learn about the biggest way to find out if somebody is good is to look at the last 6 months of their life and
Absolutely.
probably longer. What did they do before? Where were they working? Uh, what kind of history do they have just in decision making in their life? So, like a lot of big companies, Fortune 500, they pull your credit
Yeah.
because credit is an indicator of your responsibility. Now, I'm not saying you can or should do that, but you need to find out what type of life people are living and then look at the history of people who are good employees, some of your friends.
Mhm.
I'll use an example, my brother. My brother has been working for 35 years. He kills himself. Every job I've ever heard, he's worked hard. Anybody I've ever recommended to him has had raves about him. But he's had 2 companies bought or laid off. He gets a job in like 48 hours because all he does is start calling and texting old
Yeah.
other coworkers who left, and they're like, "Yeah, we got a job," because they want to bring them. So if you got a guy and you're like, "When's the last time you were working?" and you start really asking them, "Hey, I want to call your employer, see what your employment was." They'll get very squeamish if they haven't been working there in a while and say,
Man,
"Hey, be honest with me. It's okay if you haven't worked in 3 or 4 months, but I need to know that. I don't want to call this guy, say you were working there and find out you weren't." And then say, "Hey, man, I haven't been working since last December, and
that's
now
a
it's June." Oh, yeah, that's an indicator. Now, if he was a corporate attorney, it could take 6 months to find that $180,000 job. It does not take that long to find these jobs.
but they're not sitting without a job, and that's my number one red flag. If you've been without a job for 4 months, I'm immediately a pass because that
Big time
shows to
pass.
me that you are not a hustler. And one of the number one characteristics I'm looking at for my business is someone with a growth mindset. That's part of our core values. And if you're able to sit around for 4 months, you definitely are not ambitious and have a growth mindset. There, you would have to be laid up in the hospital for that to be okay with me. So, red flag number one, I'm 100% in agreement with. If you've been without a job, I'm passing. If my gut does not feel good about you, I'm passing. If you make a statement that you are too good, when I'm asking questions and I want to know what you've been doing and why you left your last job, what makes you want to leave the job before that. And it's all been because, well, I felt like I was overqualified or I was too good to do whatever. That's another pass for me because I don't care what position you're in. If it has to do with the company that is writing your paycheck, you should never feel like you are too good to pick up trash in the yard or clean a toilet. Me as a business owner, I pick the trash up in the yards. I will clean the toilet. I will crawl into crawl space, whatever the case is, because that is what a true leader shows is nothing is too good for them as long as the ship is moving forward in the right direction.
There's so I love all that. There's so many other questions, so many questions you can ask. Like, hey, did your last employer? I don't say, hey, do you want to work overtime? I say, hey, did your last employer offer overtime? And if they say, oh yeah, I was working every Saturday, anytime I could, I was now I know they like to work overtime. But I also, if anybody wants to work every Saturday they can, pretty chances are they work hard because that guy wouldn't have let him work overtime.
That's right. That's right.
But if they're like, nah, yeah, he had it, but I didn't on the weekends, I don't work, whatever. That's okay. This is for you to decide. But they'll tell on themselves. They'll tell you everything you want to know.
Great strategy when you're putting your job postings out there is ask them to do something, not just send a resume. So I will put a 3 to 5 step request inside of my job posting. So it will say in the subject line, write, send me an email, and in the line, write this. In the body of the email, tell me why you feel like I should hire you. In the attachments, add your resume. Or I might even ask them if, depending on the position, I might ask them for a video. Send me a video. I did this on my business development ad last time when I was hiring someone to go door to door knocking to commercial businesses and build our referral department up. I said, send me a video on why I should hire you. And that is an attachment on the email. In the body of the email, I want you to write uh, interested in business development position. And if I didn't see interested in business development position, it got deleted because I know they can't follow instructions. If I didn't get a video, or I had one person was like, I'm sorry, I can't get my video uploaded, all this. I was like, well, they're not trying hard enough because there's too much information available out there to figure out how to do this. And it's not that complicated. So give a little instruction. Make them walk some steps. Now you know if you've got someone that can follow instructions, and it will also help you narrow down the pool of applicants that show interest.
Always put them to work. That's a key one. Or if I'm messaging them and I say, hey, call me tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Does that work? Yeah. Call me 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll be ready. I've had people call me at 3:19. I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
Like I don't even answer it, but I know it's who it is. I do the same thing with Zooms. I'll go on Zooms 2 minutes early. That one I just told you today, that woman was
Mhm.
there. They give away so many things. I had 2 messages yesterday, Chris. One guy, I'm going to read you his message. This is in my messenger. Hey man, I'm in Atlanta. I'm looking for work. Do you have anything labor or management? I don't like it already. No response. Hey man, all this labor or management, but I got another one from this woman that I was telling Chris about. She sent me a video. She told me how she knew me, who she worked for. She had all these good things. We just did an interview with her. I'm going to hire her for one of my companies.
So
It's
let's talk about the questions then. What
Yeah.
kind of questions are you going to ask inside the interview?
So let's talk about ones that you don't notice. I like your one. Tell the one about the book. I like that one. I've been
Uh,
using that one.
So I'll sit there and ask. my applicants when they get through the application stage and I'm actually doing an interview. First of all, I think it's worth saying that I do a quick phone call before I actually sit down in front of them. There's some other strategies I've heard where people do group interviews, which I think is kind of cool. I've never tried that before, but I've heard some really nice success stories when you have a ton of applicants. You can do a group interview. So when they're sitting down with me, I'll ask them, tell me in the last 6 months what you have done to be able to grow yourself for self development. I said, this can be a book you've read, this could be a course you've taken, anything like that. And if I see that they're really struggling, then I'll say, look, you can give it up for the last 12 months if you need to have that time frame. Because I'm looking for someone that is growth minded again. And I want to know what type of books they're reading, what type of podcasts they're listening to, what type of courses they've been training on. And then I know that they're progressively trying to get better in life. And if that's their attitude in life, then they are going to kill it with me in business, no matter what position they've got. So that is one of the questions that I want to know. Another question I want to know is I will ask them, tell me what your past employers will say is the biggest negative about you. I don't want to know the positive. I
Yeah.
want to know the biggest negative. And I just did this on an interview, and the guy said they would probably say that I start out really strong, but I finish weak. And I said, explain that. Why would they say that? Well, because I typically come on really strong, but then they don't live up to their promises, and they don't treat their people fairly. Now, you know what I just learned? This dude's an excuse maker. Like everything is not his fault. It's all somebody else's fault. And this is the way he's going to be in my establishment as well if I hire him.
Wow. Those are good ones. I'm going to tell you somehow I try to find out stuff because I like stats. I like to make sheets. So what I did was this was back in like 2015. I had a lot of employees and I was getting more. I made a spreadsheet one Saturday night. You say, man, this is what this guy did on a Saturday night. It was every employee I could remember for my whole life. And I had a lot of already listed. And then I tried to figure out characteristics. And one was, I'm going to tell you some things I found out. It's not always true, but it's very likely. When people worked when they were very young, and I was looking for laborers, guys cleaning gutters who are ready to hustle, carry ladders around, go up through 2-3 stories and move all day. The guys that I did best always seemed to have that I knew of had histories of working young, meaning they worked with their dad when they were young. They were working with their brother. They started cutting lawns at 16. They never started at 22.
Yeah, that's
So,
good.
and I was like, okay, that's a cool stat. Okay, they had clean driver's license, assuming they're here in the country and they can have that. They had clean driver's license. The ones that had a lot of points and that I was like trying to not have on my insurance, they almost always end up not being good employees because they make bad decisions.
Mm,
And when I was young, I was getting a lot of speeding tickets. Guess what? I was making a lot of bad decisions. I would not have been a good employee. That's why I was cutting grass for myself. I would have been horrible.
wow.
The other one is I asked them, hey, what time do you like to get off? Do you go to the gym at night? What time do you like to be home for your kids? I ask them that because I lead them into the thing. They'll say, oh, I don't have any kids. I don't go to the gym. Or they might say, I go to the gym in the morning. I like that because now I know you're like one of these kind of military guys who gets up and get going. But sometimes they say, oh, yeah, I got kids, but I don't live with any of them or whatever. Whatever you want to say, I'm figuring out everything right there because I know if you know me, I don't like people who not people who don't live with their kids. Things happen in a relationship, but if
Right.
you got multiple kids and you're not paying for your kids, your company is going to be paying on that on garnishments, and it's going to be very telling of what they did. That was on my spreadsheet. It was like 100% always a problem. If
Uh,
people don't care about the basic stuff, they don't care about their job.
that's something that we didn't mention on the framework of before you ever even get them into the interview process is trust their history. Their history will tell you how they're going to perform for you.
Always.
You don't want to be the catalyst that someone changes their life and does a 180. Like, people can change their life. I do believe there's turnarounds in people's lives, but as an employer, do you really want to take the risk? It's like getting a winning lottery ticket. Most people never can change because it takes so much effort. They've got to change their environment. They've got to change the people they hang out with. They've got to change habits that they've built over years when you start to turn someone's life around. So don't take that extra risk as an entrepreneur. You take enough risk already. So look at their history. If they job hop, they're going to job hop on you. If they have breaks in their job history where there's no job at all, then that means they're probably going to not show up on time, and they're going to quit you without any type of alarm. If they have had criminal history, that means their ethics are bad, and they're probably going to have the same situation with you. So you can go ahead and count on them stealing and not being honest about what they do. Trust someone's past, because it is hard to teach an old dog new tricks, as the saying goes. And I just don't think it's worth the risk as an entrepreneur to be
Well,
that savior of someone so that they will turn their life around on your watch.
here's another question I ask. I say, hey, what do you like to do as far as court dates? If you have court dates, how do you want me to handle that? I've had guys court dates. Well, I go to court. What do you? And then I say, oh, okay. Just a lot of guys have it, but some guys will be like, yeah, I just need to let you know in advance. I got some coming up. I don't like guys with court dates because they're still doing a lot of bullshit. I mean, if you had one court date and somebody asked me that, I wouldn't even answer it. I'd be like, yeah, it's not a problem. If I know I got 5 coming up in the next few months because I do a lot of dumb shit, yeah. And as far as criminal, I've hired people who went to prison, and a couple of them have worked out well. It's because they're far removed from it. They did something stupid. They sold weed when they were 19. Now they're 34 years old. I
Mhm.
had a guy went to jail for 7 years. He was an excellent and responsible employee.
That's a
But
different
it,
story. Look how
it was
long.
10 plus years later. To me, they should
Yeah,
probably just after 10 years, it should be like a bankruptcy should come off your report unless you're killing somebody or doing horrible shit.
I agree with that. I've seen, but they've already done the transformation in their life. They've
But if they're
created a
still
new
in it, oh,
habit
they're going to bring
in
I
history.
don't I guess what I'm looking for on all of my questions is because I'm not looking for a super high level techs. I was looking for laborers. I don't want bring people who bring chaos to my organization, and they will bring chaos.
Yep.
And here was another question I asked: who was your best friend at your last job? Why do I ask that? Because when they answer really quick, oh man, everybody was cool. But this guy, Chris, me and him, we're still friends. I know that they're more likely to be team players and likable. And people like that generally, from my experience, when people all around them liked, it's because they worked hard. It's because people respected them and everything. And a lot of guys who are very aloof, don't want to talk to anybody. Have they ever worked hard? Sure. But mostly they're kind of on their way out. If they're like, man, I couldn't stand anybody over there. I have people tell me the craziest things because this isn't my first question. This is at the end of the interview. A lot of times they tell, man, I don't deal with anybody over there.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Nobody over there. You like them? That doesn't make sense. How could that be?
So I want to hit on this before we end this. Clarity. You need to have clarity. I think this is the number one mistake that most business owners, especially in the beginning as they're hiring their teams, is they don't get clarity on what this position, this hire is going to do. You say, I just need help, and you go and try to hire. So what we do is we have a document that we fill out, just a Word document, and I type it up. And the first portion of it says goal. And so I need to know, what is the goal of this person, this position that this person is going to hold. So I'll give you an example, like my coordinator, person that answers the phone and does all of our scheduling and quality calls after the jobs are done. The goal says build positive value on initial calls and customers and transition calls into sold services. So on our cleaning side, they're actually quoting and selling our cleaning services over the phone. And then the next sentence underneath the goal says schedule services and dispatch team, maintain team compliance with systems. it just needs to be a very high level, 1 to 3 sentences. What is the goal of this person in this position? Then your second needs to be the task that they're actually going to be doing. So for this would be answering incoming calls within 2 rings, quote services over the phone, input customer data details in the systems for team preparedness, schedule the jobs and estimates, dispatch the team members. So this gives you an example, their task. And then at the third portion of this document, you should have their KPIs, their key performance indicators. This is how they know and you know that they're doing their job to the level that they should be doing their job. So one of the KPIs is answer the phone by the second ring. Another KPI might be that they need to 99% show up rate, attendance rate, because if they're out, then someone else is having to cover the phone. Another KPI might be so many outbound calls made to past customers so that you can regenerate new revenue and increase the lifetime value of your current customer base. So what's the goal of their hiring, the position that they're going to fill? What are their daily tasks in that position? And then what are the metrics that you track so that you and them both know that they're performing at a high level? If you'll get clarity to this level, you will have a much better success rate after you've hired that person because everybody has clarity.
And Chris, well, I'll do 1 minute and lead us into our next one. Guys, listen to the next podcast. We're going to do higher level for higher level companies. Some of this was, I even felt for me, I was being a little negative because a lot of guys are like who I was. We're very small. You don't have a lot to offer them. In my case, it was say gutter cleaning, or when I had landscaping, I wasn't offering great packages at all. I was young. So when you have, if it's just you and you're hiring 2 guys, 3 guys, you don't have a lot to offer. So here I was trying to give ways to not waste time and hire people that are going to frustrate you. But next we're going to talk about when you're bigger, how do you really build the company so that attracts high level people who stick? And then we're going to give you a strategy that has worked really well for me. It was a game changer where I use offshore VAs and stuff to do a lot of the administrative tasks to make it easier for my employees to save money. And then I can pay those employees more money. That's why I was paying some gutter guys working for me over $500 a day. People like, what? To clean gutters? Because I wanted the best of the best. They were running crews, and that was the key. You cannot pay guys $150 and think they're going to be out in an apartment complexes cleaning gutters all the time. It's going to be a mess. So I had to figure out where that money came from, and I'm going to talk about that and how you can apply that this to any business, small or big. It's a game changer. We're going to see you on the next call.
Look, if you're looking for more access to Blue Collar Millionaire, me and Kevin, please check out the School Community Boardroom Elite. This is our highest coaching platform, School SKOOL Boardroom Elite. This is where me and Kevin hop on a call every single week with you over Zoom. We do live Q&A. There's a message board where you can have instant Q&A when you've got a question. It's a community of other blue collar service providers. And these guys are talented, running very successful businesses. So not only do you have me and Kevin as a mentor, you have your peers as mentors as well. You're going to run through the same problems. We always go through the same problems, just at different levels. So why not get advice to help accelerate that? Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you tune in next week for part 2 of this conversation.